So growing up, we obviously have lots of memories of playing and the different coaches we've had, and obviously I think we all started playing pretty young, didn't we? And probably coaches stick out for various reasons, but it's probably not until you get to your adulthood that you realise what a big impact certain coaches did have on our lives and careers in general, whether it's good or bad. So I guess, Chris, have you got any coaches that stick out for you and why?
A few junior coaches that stand out to me, around that sort of 13, 14, 15 year old stage where, you're sort of developing, you're going through a few changes, and if anything, it was the coaches that sort of put their arm around you when you were down, or if you made mistakes, and were supportive and positive with you. Mm-hmm. There's a few that stick out, from my junior days back in Adelaide, and I hardly, to be honest, I don't remember a lot of the sessions, but I remember the coaches and their character and how they were supportive. And, as much as coaches are coaches, you're only with the players for a few hours a week. I think as role models, they play a massive part in the development of character in kids, and they instill good values. And, as a coach, I think, we play a massive role in the kids and their attitudes and how they go about things.
Yeah. And I think you're a very strong coach with the junior teams in particular. And is there anything that you bring into your coaching that you see that you've taken from various coaches that you've had growing up?
I think similar to Chris, I can remember the coaches when I got into my teenage years, but yeah, for the younger ones, it's always for me that you have to enjoy it and have fun. And I think from me growing up, I could name every single coach I've had, but I probably couldn't name all the players I play with, so you definitely remember who your coaches was and what they were like as people more than anything.
Yeah.
So as long as the kids are having fun, I think that's the main thing I've took from coaches in the past. Did I enjoy it as a kid too?
And what traits of a coach did you like as a kid?
I liked the loud, bubbly coaches who were in and amongst the kids, and we have a bit of a laugh and a joke that sometimes I look like I'm enjoying the session just as much as the kids, but I think that's what I've took away from some of my coaches. Like, my favourite coaches growing up were the ones who got involved and enjoyed it too, I think, yeah.
What about you, Chris? Anything that sticks out that you really liked about certain coaches?
Oh, just energy, lots of energy, and like they enjoy it as well. And I think, it's so easy to dwell on negatives as a coach when things are going wrong, but I think if they focus on the positive, what's going right, you get so much more out of the kids. And, even as a child, the mistakes you're making, but what you need to do. But, when you're doing the right things and you get the support of a coach, it gives you that much more enjoyment and enthusiasm, and you want to be there. But it's just generally the coaches that were energetic and really positive how they went about the actual coaching.
No, I think something that sticks out for me is growing up at Swindon, the academy manager Phil Cannon. He was a Scouser, so naturally quite bubbly and quite positive, but it was the little details for me that I really remember. He would always be really warm to each and every player. He didn't feel like he had favourites as such, and then during a game he would notice things that I felt like some coaches wouldn't. If you've made a run off the ball and you hadn't got the pass, he would notice that and he would praise you for it. And I also remember him being stood next to the coach that was coaching a session, and obviously he was his boss, and something good happened in the game, he was like, tell him, because as you said, that positivity is so important. And it's, I think, naturally with sport, even at kids, it's so easy to get caught up in the mistakes or the bad things that happen, refereeing decisions, but it's like, well, what harm can telling someone well done? I don't think there's anywhere near enough sort of praise for kids and the right things being done, because it's so easy to focus and moan about the negatives, but which often outweighs the positive comments. So I think it's just finding that balance of, at times there's time for constructive feedback, but in general, can we be positive about everything, even putting a positive spin on something that has gone wrong? What can you learn from that, rather than don't do this, don't pass it across the back, don't take a touch in your back third, when really that's not how soccer's played. It's all on decision, so it's helping them learn from those mistakes.
Definitely.
And is there anything that you can think that you now as a current coach that you think, well, I had that experience as a kid, I definitely don't want to, put that onto the kids that I'm coaching?
Well, definitely there is a time and a place to identify things that have gone wrong and things you want to address within the team, but I think do it in a, if you're going to address an issue that's a problem, I don't think doing it in front of the group is the right way to do it. I think if you're going to do that, you pull the player aside, do it as a one-on-one. And again, it's, I like you to do this, can you do this better next time, and things like that. I think if you address negative things to a player that they've done wrong in front of the group, it can really put them on a downer. So definitely as a one-on-one, one-on-one is when you want to sort of dwell on those things. But again, with the positive things within the group, definitely go for it. But yeah, it's just when to address those things with a player and when not to. So that's probably one. Doing it in a one-on-one situation as opposed to the group.
Yeah.
Is there anything that
I think for me, the biggest thing I took from when I was growing up, especially at Tranmere, that I want the kids to play with freedom, because I got to a point where I was playing on the 14, 15s, doing quite well, and then me on the 16s coach, he was really setting how he wanted us to play, and we had to play it to his exact way, like his exact style of play, and I just sort of felt like I'm not showing what I can do here, where now I want to get across to the kids, we have some sort of idea, but don't be scared to express yourself. Do whatever you're good at in the right parameters, as opposed to just being stuck in, I need to please my coach in how I play and I'm not showing what I can do, sort of thing.
I think that an expression that always stuck out for me with the coaches that I got on really well was go and express yourself, enjoy it, and those messages as a young player I think are critical, because already game day comes with lots of nerves and anxiety for kids and expectations from parents and whoever's coming to watch them. So I think as a coach of kids, and the kids obviously want to impress their coach, it's so important that we give them that freedom to go out and play their own game, and not have that fear of making mistakes and of the consequences if they do make a mistake, because at the end of the day that there is a bigger picture to football, and I think we've all seen how you're feeling about your football can then translate into your everyday life, because I know for us three definitely it's something that's inbred in us, and I know lots of kids coming through now, they want it to be their career, so they're obviously going to take how they feel on the pitch and training to their everyday life. So I think that bigger picture is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess talking about messages from coaches that pass on, I guess, I'm a bit older than you guys, but I've learned from even seeing sessions at a higher level and things like that you can't take for granted the basics within football, where I think even at a junior level that some of the coaches try to complicate things, where the game is so simple. If you could do the basics really well, there's half your battle. So even just a simple pass, the execution, passing on the right side, don't take for granted how simple the game is, and playing that simple option quickly, where coaches can start getting a little bit frazzled. We need to work on this, we need to work on throw-ins. It's like, get back to the absolute basics, and free kick, get the ball down quick and play before they can get prepared to set up, move the ball quick. If there's a man 2 meters away, play that simple option. As long as it's positive, going forward, that's probably a big thing that I've noticed in the last few years about the simplicity of football and doing it well.
100%. It's huge, isn't it? We talk about that all the time, don't we? Just how simple it actually is, and those simple traits, the passing on the right side, your control, and you see the articles coming out of Ten Hag at Man United with some of the best players in Europe, that he's really just driving those simple habits, and that's top level. We were lucky enough to see that Aston Villa session recently, and it's like a breath of fresh air when you see how quick they move it. Their movement is sharp, so they've worked so hard on the simple things. The first touch is perfect nearly every time. The movement is sharp. The communication is excellent the whole time, and the way they do the basics so well at that highest level, you go, that's how simple it is. It's not that complicated. So it's refreshing to see that, and that's where going down to a local junior level, it's like
just let's push the basics, let's push the simplicity, work ethic, things like that, and that's where you see a lot of growth in the kids. That positivity. It's quality.
That's where it all comes from. And I think something that we're very conscious of in our roles here at SoccerX and when we onboard new coaches is explaining the importance of the way we conduct ourselves, not just when we're coaching, but the broader picture. Because I know definitely growing up, I looked up to coaches not just from a footballing point of view, but that if they looked like a soccer player and the way they handled themselves and certain traits about them, I think as young kids you're very impressionable. Is there anyone that you had as a youngster that you looked up to in more than just a footballing way?
Not so much when I was really young, but me first couple of years at Fleetwood, my second year coach was a pro who come down and got the job, so he was like transiting from a player to a coach, so I could really relate to him. Like he still looked like a player, like acted like a player, but he was being a coach now. So it was like I could see like him as a player, sort of thing. Like I wanted to be like him, but he was a coach now, so he was still really close to playing and coaching. So I think if we can show the kids that like we can play, we can do the things we're asking them to do, then that's really important for us because they can visualise it through us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's it. And if some coaches may not realise that even kids at 10, 11, they're looking at everything you do, how you react to things, and without knowing it, if we react in a negative way to a mistake or show frustration to a mistake that's happened on the pitch, they think that's normal, and that's obviously what what's the saying? Do as I say, not as I do. But it's natural that they see what you do and they think, well, that's right. The same as for parents, I guess you lead by example and they copy your actions rather than I could throw my hands up in the air and scream at a referee or scream at a kid for making a mistake, but then tell the kid you don't do that. But which one are they going to follow really? Because they've seen me firsthand doing that. So I think that's something that's huge, is that bigger picture. If we want a kid to develop in a certain way on and off the pitch, we have to portray that ourselves. And otherwise, I think if a coach does and says opposite things, you lose the respect of players, even young players. I think they're like, well, why is he telling me to do that when he's acting like that himself?
I agree massively. I think even I didn't realise how much they take from you. Like I even have my kids now, they'll do my accent to me, so they're definitely like looking at even how you speak and the terms you use. Like they'll shout terms and I'm like, I've heard myself say that, so they're obviously just sort of second nature, like copying what you do to a sense.
Well, that's it. And I think your young boy Sammy's obviously at Gold Coast United, a good young player, and you're obviously his dad, but you're a coach to him as well, because he obviously looks up to you, the career you had, and he wants to be you. And I see so many traits in him on and off the pitch that I see in you. Even the way he runs, the way he carries himself, and the way he gets angry. So I mean, I guess both good and bad. Or he's looking at everything that you've done. For the last 6-7 years, he's been following you around wherever you've been playing, wherever you've been coaching, and obviously you talk to him after games. And how do you find that?
Well, I find it challenging being a father, and obviously from a coaching point of view to try and mould your child to be the best player they can be. And I bring it back down to habits. I talk to him a lot about doing the basics well, not dwelling on mistakes. It's just, if you make a mistake, what can you do next time to fix it? And also not worrying about it. I think young kids dwell on their mistakes too much, and it might take a minute in a game where they're thinking about it, when they can just get on with it and go and chase and fight for a ball. Being a centre back and a defender, my focus as a player was always thinking defence first. But I think a team's my sort of philosophy, if you want is defend first and then go from there. So if players are down as if they're not getting on the ball and not working hard, I think a player can dig in and work and fight to go and get the ball back, and then things change within a game. So that's a lot of what I say to Sammy is, mate, as long as you work hard and you fight for a ball, things will evolve from that. You get on the ball and you'll be able to play, but your basic foundation is your willingness to work hard and fight for a ball when it's there. and that sort of those habits within the team, they rub off on other players as well. I remember playing with a player years ago who's a coach now as well. Sometimes you'd be in a game where it would be in a limbo, we're under the pump, and then he would be the player probably 9 times out of 10 that would come through and just snap someone in a tackle, fair but aggressive, and the whole team would lift from it. And you'd just be like, what? And everyone, come on. And then you might go up and score a goal and it would change the game. So, that might only be one player that can do that, but those sort of things rub off on players, and they're the sort of things that I try and sort of say to Sammy, don't dwell on the negatives, and like I said, if you can get the ball, move it quick. Can you go? Is your first thought to go forward instead of backwards? Can you get to the final third quick? And things like that. It's just all the positive stuff, and he gets down in the dumps sometimes. He's only 9 years old, and it's like, don't worry about it. Get on with it. What can you do to improve? How can you help your teammates and things like that? So it is hard, and as a dad, it's sort of like, what's right and what's wrong. There's certain things within the FFA curriculum where I think, is that right? But who's to say what's right and wrong? So they're the battles you have as a father and as a coach as well. But it's all good fun.
Yeah, and that's it. I think you said that there's curriculums and there's so many different opinions on what's right and wrong. And I think one thing we stick to, as you talked about, is the habits, and it's just being consistent with the basic habits of the game. As you said, it's simple. And being consistent with the messages, with the positivity, with not getting too carried away with the results either way. And I guess with results, and something I feel that there's quite a varying opinion on with regards to where you're looking from, is yes, we can have a big impact on over the course of a season or over the course of 5 years of working with kids and their basic habits on and off the pitch, but come game day, I feel like from some angles there's a massive expectancy on how much of an impact a coach can have, and obviously we'll keep this to junior football for the moment, but you have your under 12s on Saturday, for example. You've got a 50-minute game and the game hasn't gone well and you've got beat, and a lot of the time everything's dissected into different areas, and the sad thing is sometimes the coaches looked at, they know how they started, how they were set up, the substitutes and things like that. How much impact do you think you, as a coach for, say, an under-12s team, can have on game day?
I think you can have, obviously, a little bit of impact on just your demeanour and how you come across, how you're interacting with the kids, but in terms of how they play and what mood they're in before they come to the game, I think, you can't have much. You've done all your training throughout the week, but a game day is for them to go and play and have fun, and if they're not playing well for whatever reason, you can help them to an extent, but you can't have a massive impact on the result, or if someone's having an off day or the keeper's let 2 in by mistake. I think a game day is more them to go and express themselves and have fun more than them. How we can set up to win and things like that, especially at that age, especially at junior level.
What about you?
Well, I mean, I guess the game day is out of your control to a certain extent. If kids have stayed up late the night before or didn't train because they went away during the week. But for me, the art of coaching is your game days to identify the problems, and your training sessions are to try and rectify those issues. The only influence you can really have on a game day is your half-time talk, and to a certain extent your substitutions, but at that junior level it's a rotation anyway, so you can't even have that influence there. So it's probably your half-time talk is reiterating your messages from the beginning. This is going well, let's keep doing it at your half-time, and really again staying positive, not dwelling on those negatives. It's like, this is working well, let's keep focusing on that. And that's where you can have that influence. But again, you've got to identify your issues at the game that you want to rectify at your training sessions. So the game day is out of your control to a certain extent with that, I think.
And I think that's where we're in a position where we're a massive example to kids and also parents come game day, because how often do you see like an under 8 or 9 game, for example? Our philosophy where we coach at Burley is all the kids get even game time and whatnot, but and I think we keep to that all the time. You know, we won't change the personnel or anything, and play some kids longer than others just to purely win a game. But we see so often that does happen. So you know the game's closer. You keep your best 7 or 9, whatever you're playing on the pitch. But what effect are you having on the other 2 or 3 kids that have been kept off, and they only play against more minutes against the teams when they're winning 4 or 5-0. So again, it's that bigger picture, and as professional coaches in our position as role models, it's those consistent messages of during the week we're telling the kids that it's all about their development, it's about the bigger picture and the basic habits, but they've trained the same as the top end of the team, but they come to game day and they're playing less. So I think that's a real crucial message to be consistent with, and something that is a sad part of the game, that it isn't the kids that are getting caught up with the result. A lot of the time it's the coaches or whoever's looking after the team, it's their egos. And that's something that I think, whilst the kids that have played will be happy, but it doesn't send a good message overall for and probably lose players from that. And those players that are at the bottom end, maybe because they're physically not as well developed, they might be the ones come 15, 16 have a growth spurt, and they're those top end players that are actually going to progress, and because they've had to overcome being a smaller player, being a slower player, and they've actually developed other aspects of the game to get by up until the time when they catch up physically. So there's a much bigger picture, I think.
A huge picture. I mean, the big thing I've noticed at that grassroots level, and in particular at Burleigh, is you see, there's a lot of different stages where kids are at, where 10 years old there might be a kid playing his first year, or and there's been some kids that have played 3 or 4 years. So the big gauge that I notice is that if the sessions are provided and run well, from day one, the start of the season, you see the development, 3 or 4 months in, you can see how much they've improved. It's unbelievable. So that shows the importance of those sessions that are put on, and that consistency with the basics and the fundamentals, and starting on time and doing things right. When you see that development of the kids, that's sort of where you get that warm feeling in your stomach, where you go, look how much that kid's improved. And he might have not even been able to control the ball the first session, and then halfway through the season he's controlling, playing, working hard, and that they're the things where it's so hard, as a coach and as a father, your son or daughter might lose, but you've got to look back and go, well, they played really well though. It's disappointing they didn't win, but look at the development where they've gone from the start to now. It's really hard. You've really got to step back and look at that. But seeing that development is fantastic, and the kids really improve.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess moving on to touch briefly on senior teams and how coaches probably have an impact on you, but in different ways. Is there anything that you can think of? Start with the negatives first, where a coach has really had a negative impact on you, and both on off the pitch.
Negative. I think when you get to sort of 16, 17, communication is really important, and if you've been for example, when I was left out of a team, I'd really want to know why and how I can get back in the team. I've had coaches in the past who have left me out and not told me why, and sort of give me the cold shoulder, and I'm sitting there second guessing myself, am I not good enough? Why aren't I in the team? I think I'm better than him, so I should be playing. Where me better coaches, by all means, leave me out, but tell me why, give me a reason. And we might be playing against a more physical team. Connor, this game's not for you. Next game you'll be back in, sort of thing. So I think communication for us, that's young adolescents, 16, 17, 18 is vital.
And what did that do to you? Obviously, if a coach wasn't communicating, how did that affect your?
Well, you sort of you obviously down yourself. You turn maybe against the coach a bit. You don't trust them, and you start to second guess. Well, am I good enough if he's leaving me out? And obviously, you don't realise that's just his opinion. You think, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe, I can't play for this team. I need to go lower. Where, in reality, you might just been left out for one reason, and if you're told the right things, you can get back in.
Communication is massive, isn't it? Especially as you get older. What about you? Is there anything that really impacted you in a negative way?
Probably some coaches, when they're going in at half time, you might be 1-0 down or something like that, that have just focused on the negatives. What are you doing? Why'd you do that? What are you thinking there? And the way I think you moulded the way you go about things by your experience as well. And that's why, when you've experienced coaches that are positive and focus on the positives, you think, well, that works. I'm going to do that as well. So as much as you're moulded by the negatives as well. And, I've had coaches, that would just say, what were you thinking? What are you doing there? And I put that down to, looking back to their insecurities about that, what they wanted to do in a game and their lack of understanding, if anything. So as much as, they're having a crack and, it's not the player, it's the actual coach that they're lacking a certain area where you think, well, it wasn't as much me, but at the time it's really hard. So probably those ones, the communication's probably a big one as well, the lack of communication and things like that. But again, I think that comes down to the individual coach's insecurity within themselves, where I think as a coach you've got to be open, you've got to be with your ideas and how you want to do things, you've got to communicate it with the players so they're on board as well. And that's at a higher, an older level than your juniors. But I believe you've got to have a way you want to go about football, and then you explain that to your team, debate certain situations with how you want to do it, and back yourself on how you want to do it, and be open to change as a coach when a player's have got ideas, like take on board what they want to say and evolve as a coach. And I think the players respect that more when you're open with how you want to do things and how you want to go about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that communication is massive with players, and making the player happy in general is huge. And I think I'm definitely of the opinion that the motivation of a player individually and then collectively as a group is a lot more beneficial than having a coach that tactically is really astute and they know exactly what they want to do. But your team might not be enthused, they might not be motivated. And if you talk about the top managers, Klopp and Guardiola, yes, they've got amazing players, and yes, they have amazing ideas on tactically how they want to go about things, but they've got also the problem of having 25, 30 quality top level players to keep happy. And something evident about them that generally they manage that somehow. They manage the team, they manage the mood so that when the players are on the pitch they're giving everything. And that's the difference. There's so many quality squads around. Man United on paper isn't that far off Man City, isn't that far off Liverpool, but you look at the points tallies at the end of last season and quite clearly there was something wrong with the morale in the Man United dressing room. And it can't all just be the coach's tactics. It has to be something to do with whether it's the coach making sure that the group's happy or there's stuff going on behind the scenes. But I just think a massive part of the coach's role is just managing personalities, managing players, managing the group so that everyone's happy and going to be successful that way.
You see it so many times where you've got a successful team and the manager moves on or the coach moves on and a new manager comes in with the same squad, and slowly within a few weeks you see a decline, and you can see it from the outside. You don't know what's going on inside. You go, something's wrong there. And 9 times out of 10 the manager's gone pretty quickly, and that shows a lot about management with players, where you can have the same squad doing well, successful, manager moves on, new coach comes in, and there's a decline. There's something in that within the coach and how they deal with those players.
I think, speaking for myself, the coaches who I've played for so far, your favourite ones are always the ones that made you feel good. You don't really think so much on what coaches taught you the most tactically. I think what coaches were the best man managers. And I think the best ones are the ones that can motivate a team and keep a team together. I think they're the ones I've remembered so far.